Welcome, everyone, to the Aging and Spirituality podcast, where we're encouraging women over 60 to tap into their inner potential all the time. Ladies, we're so happy you're here. Happy to see you. I'm Kathy Lee Taylor,
And I'm Chris Jensen.
and I'm going to be talking today about, well, autumn, because I love autumn. I was just telling Chris how I it just in October I just turned into like a different person. I have no problem being happy every day. I get up every day and I'm just like just in my element. And so I started thinking about it as a topic for the podcast, and I was kind of surprised at some of the things that I found out about this particular time of the year. And I'm going to tie it into a subject that is really close to my heart and close to my spiritual journey, and that is the art of surrender. So really the art of surrender is something that it's a spiritual skill that everybody needs. It really can bring you into a much happier, much more fulfilled life. So that's what we're all about, making women a lot happier at this time in their lives as they go through this transition. Anytime, but right now this is what we're talking about. And so I'm going to talk a little bit about my favorite time of year and what happens when autumn comes around. So what it feels like. So autumn kind of brings a natural sense of transition and reflection. Have you ever noticed that? You get to this time of the year and it's kind of like you start thinking about, oh, what happened this year? What did I do? Sometimes what did I accomplish? Who was I with? All of those kinds of things you start thinking about in October, reflecting on how you felt about it. It really affects your emotional state. Like I said, I have no trouble being like a giddy kid in fall. I guess it was because I was born in October, and that was just my playtime. I don't know. I just really love it. And it's a time when the days are growing shorter, and the air gets crisper, and you're really reminded that time is passing by, and life is impermanent. And to me, that feels really exciting the older I get. And there are moments, don't get me wrong, there are moments that I'm like, I wanted to slow down. I don't want time to be flying by. But honestly, I'm so aware of how beautiful every day is. And autumn just really exemplifies that for me. So I have a much deeper sense of gratitude and appreciation for life. And this time of year really makes me think about being slower. It encourages that introspection and that
Mhm.
connection with soul just kind of naturally. I mean, it's historically, and especially in Canada, in October was our Thanksgiving, right? And that was because it was end of harvest.
Mhm.
Food had been harvested and it was time to celebrate. And it's that time of gathering and sharing with friends, and nurturing and expressing thanks and just really enjoying the fruits of your labor. So that's happening in fall too. And the landscapes are just, I mean, I get up every day and look at my screensaver and I look at all these wonderful landscape photos. And it just makes me so happy. And I keep telling myself, I'm going to go. One of these years, I'm going to get myself back in there and go. That would be like a trip I'd really enjoy, is going to see some of the autumn colors again. It's also a time that cultural and family traditions come into play. Your holidays start, you got Thanksgiving, everybody's starting to feel really good about the holidays coming up, and sometimes that means just familial rituals like cozying up in front of a fire when it's cold, playing games with your family when you can't get out. We don't relate to that too much because we're in California. So we can get out it all the time. But around the globe, people are experiencing autumn in a whole different way, in a much colder way, which I have never forgotten, having been raised in Canada. So these traditions that families go through really, and they reinforce a sense of belonging. They remind us to express our love to each other and our appreciation for the people that bring love and warmth into our lives. So ultimately, autumn's a real time of slowing down, reflecting, and really expressing what you value the most. And that's what I really love about it. It's such a juicy time. um, the thing about it is that in order to be in that space that autumn brings, that transition, that transformative kind of feeling, you need to know how to be in the present moment. You need to know how to connect with spirit to really take advantage of everything that's going on.
Yeah.
Um, if you're surrendering and using that spiritual skill of surrendering, you're really going to notice it because you're going to have much more sense of peace.
Mhm.
Joy will be easier for you. Being content will be easier. Happiness is just something that happens because you breathe in, you know? So
Mhm.
there really are great benefits to focusing on what does it feel like to be in the present moment. And even if you feel like you know what that is, keep your mind open. I'm going to talk a little bit about my own story of the um, surrender journey that I've been on in my life and see if you can relate to some of it. So my journey of understanding what surrender, the art of surrender was all about, really began with the yoga center back in 1982. And this lovely lady is smiling because she was there. She was
Mhm.
my first
I was
teacher.
there. I
When
was
I
there.
walked through the door,
Yeah.
her lovely face was there, and I can still remember the class. I can still remember the feeling. I was standing on a towel or something. I didn't have a mat at that time. I had whatever I brought to stand on. And I remember she walked by me, and I could feel her. I could feel I knew her somehow. And that was beginning of a long journey of doing yoga together. I mean, little did we know we'd become lifelong friends, and our strongest bond was really our devotion to yoga and living connected to source. And it's been really beautiful. So thank you for that, Chris. Now that we're in autumn and we're talking about being grateful.
Thank you for that connection. I mean, it's been
Yeah,
a very big blessing.
it was a huge blessing. It is still a huge blessing. So, back then in those days, 1982, and Chris had been in the yoga center for a few years at that point because we opened in 1970. And a lot of the main teachers came in during that first 10 years. And anyway, we attended classes 2, 3 times a week. We couldn't wait to do our postures and pranayam and meditation. And literally, we couldn't get enough of it. I remember in my first years when I actually committed to meditating twice a day, what that felt like. I started to go through the realization of the trauma that I needed to release. I mean, like most people, childhood leaves a mark. And I had energy that needed to be released and needed to heal. And I think that was really my first concept of what surrender was all about. How do I heal from these somatic wounds that I can I can't see them, but I can feel them. And I didn't know what that process meant. Feeling was not something that was like a common word for me back then. So, giving something up to a higher power, which you will hear people say that's what surrender is about, that was really unfamiliar to me. I really had no idea what that meant. And of course, that's because my brain was trying to figure it out. I was trying to put words to it. And it's not a way that you can understand what that process is. So, my nature when I came into the yoga center was to be very willpowered, just willpower my way through anything, all my challenges, whatever was happening. I would just put my head down and plow through. That was my answer to everything. So if you're a listener and you're a type A personality, listen up. I'm talking to you. This process of learning to surrender literally saved my life. I mean, it's been a journey of understanding how to move from the third eye to the heart, but it's been amazing. I can tell you that. I had to learn to really feel my way through the whole, what does it mean to let go? It was like a trial and error at first. I discovered that the more I practiced letting go in like minor situations, then it became easier in larger situations to understand, how to let go in life. And eventually, after practicing for a few years, I noticed that the things that were holding me back before had been released, and it kind of happened in, invisible. I didn't see it happening. I didn't realize that it was gone. It's like when you have a heartbreak, and you feel into that, you feel the sting is still there. Um, so yeah, when you fully release something, that sting no longer is there. You can think about the person or the situation. It doesn't hurt anymore. So that's how you know you're succeeding on the path of understanding what surrender is all about. At least it was for me. It's also a way of, when you look at your thoughts on a daily basis, we say a lot in yoga to do a mental audit at the end of the day and really notice where your thoughts were for the whole day. Like, were you thinking, oh, how grateful I am to be alive? How beautiful was this day? This gorgeous autumn day. What amazing friends I have. I mean, how did I get so lucky, God? It's like, is that where your thoughts were? And if not, then you will definitely benefit from the process of learning how to surrender those other mental gyrations, those other things that pull you away from your peace, that pull you away from being connected to your soul. So you get the idea of what that looks like, that comparison. So it kind of brings my story to the idea of what happened to me when I was 35, and that is I had a near-death experience. And I talk about it just because it was such a pivotal point in my life. And it was when I really discovered what surrender meant at a deep, deep, deep level. I don't think it can go any deeper than having happened to me what actually happened.
Big
It's like
surrender.
it is the surrender. It's like meeting head on the divine source of energy. It's something that you never forget, and it
Mhm.
changes you at your core. It's amazing. It's also challenging. It became, after that experience, a process of surrender became like refined by the choices I was making. My values had changed, my priorities had changed, my whole life, my whole world, the way I saw things had changed. And when challenges came up, I really had to understand how to use that ability, that skill, to surrender in a completely different way. It got to a place where, you kind of learn how to comfort the ego. It becomes very refined. You let go of controlling circumstances in your life. um, you really switch over to a place where you're creating things in your life that have spiritual qualities. You're choosing to be in peace, you're choosing to be in joy and happiness and love, instead of the winds of the autumn breeze is just blowing you around all the time and causing chaos in your life. You learn when you surrender that you can be in that flow of divine love and divine energy. So, but let's bring this back to listeners. People at this time of the year, they're really shifting to that changing rhythms, adjusting for the emotional and spiritual transformations that are kind of happening inside of us at this time of year. It's kind of like the leaves falling from the tree. People start to declutter, and they visit, whether it's physical or mental or emotional, they're just letting go of those things that no longer serve us. A lot of people start throwing crap out because they don't need it anymore. The older you get, the more crap you throw out, right?
Crap you don't want. Yeah. But the thing is that this is very important information for people, because a lot of people get a little complacent in the fall.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
this is helping to, get through that and be more dynamic.
Yes, make choices to
Mm.
transform, work with it,
Yeah, yeah,
transform yourself, let it change you.
yeah.
The more excited you can get about it, the more grateful you can get about that energy, the easier it's going to be for you to receive that divine flow and let it just work its
Mhm.
way with you.
Yeah.
Let it work its magic with you. You don't have to do a dang thing. Just tune in.
Mhm.
So, and that is brings us to our point of, being present in the moment. That's what it means, tuning in, being present with spirit in the moment as much as you possibly understand how to do it. You're really opening up a space for new experiences and new relationships. It's and then, you know, fall is harvest. It's a time for reaping rewards from past efforts. it's a time to receive, receive the love that's there for you, that's meant for you in this lifetime.
Mhm.
You're a child of the universe. It's your birthright to feel that kind of love, that kind of connection with the universe. And it's also a time like, that's happening for you when you really feel like you want to have intimate time with yourself. You want to write or meditate or go on nature walks and put your feet in the grass and just get really, connected in that way. Ground your body in a way that feels just like comforting and peaceful. Like yesterday I was doing Tai Chi. It was fun. I learned something new. I've never done it before, but I was learning about how it feels to really pay attention to the energy moving through your body. So and I did it because it's fall and I wanted to experience something new. It was really fun. It was really worth it. So take the time to listen to those internal yearning,
Mhm.
those pulls that are telling you to do something, go for a walk, take a bath, do some aromatherapy, whatever it is, that kindness that you're thinking about doing for yourself, do it. Do not put it off, please. Connect with your loved ones and your family if that brings you joy. Get a hug. First thing I do when I see my son, hug, please. I don't get enough of those anymore, like, yeah, you have to ask for what you want. Spend time with your loved ones. Share your thoughts and feelings. I was talking to a friend this morning that I haven't talked to in 25 years. We used to work together and she moved back to New Zealand. And I was like, oh, I got to talk to her. And we talked for 2 hours. It was like we just had lunch yesterday. But it felt so loving. It felt so, oh, how did we, not connect this whole dang time? you know so we just said we're going to talk more often, which is great. I really enjoy her, so that kind of thing. Reconnect with people you haven't talked to in a long time. It really is a chance to practice your deep listening
Yeah.
skills. You be authentic in your expression with your people and your connections and your relationships. Slowing down, maybe you just feel like reading a book. Like, when's the
Just
last
do
time you
something
did
a little
that?
different.
Yes. Like, what's the last, like, I feel guilty taking a fiction book and laying down to read it. It's like, really? I'm going to spend a couple hours just reading this damn book? My kids laugh at me because they're big fiction readers, and they're like, you haven't read a book? Like, what's wrong with you? It just, it just feels so sedentary to me. But for a lot of people, that getting into a whole world of fiction is just what they love to do. So do that, or cook
Mhm.
nice meals for yourself. Do something that feels really creative. That will make you feel like you're in that ebb and flow. Remind you how good it is to be alive. I call it creating sacred space.
Mhm.
What could you do this fall, this autumn? Think about that. Why not take a chance and create sacred spaces in your day every day?
Yeah.
Why not? Why not?
Why
It's
not?
30 days.
Why
Make it
not?
every minute.
I
Exactly.
mean, we have everything to gain.
Everything to gain. When we do it, right? We get up in the morning, the first thing we
Yeah.
do is meditate. That's a sacred space for us.
Yeah. Yeah. Very important.
That doesn't get, there's no negotiating.
Right. That's
We
absolutely
just
right.
do it because we know how it makes us feel.
Mhm.
And I've been doing my postures every morning. And when I did the Tai Chi, I was like, oh, I can add this into my postures. Like,
Mhm.
now I can do my postures and I can, like, really just like sense and feel how the energy is moving through
Right.
you when you're, releasing the tension from the muscles, that kind of thing. Just gave me a whole new, kind of perspective about all those kinds of wonderful things that I do for myself. Yeah. So it's also a time, that new opportunities often come to us in this time, in this fall, autumn kind of feeling. So stay open to that. Be receptive. Be more open-minded. It's not a time for giving up on your dreams or being passive when you're facing challenges. You really just want to trust that life has its own intelligence, and it often works in really mysterious, unexpected, and
Mhm.
sometimes uncomfortable ways, but that's okay too.
Yeah.
Invite it in,
It's how
you
we
know?
grow sometimes.
Yeah. That unfamiliar is oftentimes exactly what you need,
Yeah.
and you're ignoring it because you're stuck in a brain pattern, that you've had for
One
years.
that's been in frozen. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Making patterns is really important.
Yes. So we're going to surrender, right, folks? We're going
Yeah.
to let go of controlling and resisting and I was gonna say fear and anxiety, but it's like they're not even part of it. Don't
Yeah.
even, get close to them. That's crazy. You want to be in that ultimate feeling of trusting the natural rhythms that are in the universe. And sometimes that means you're accepting the uncertainty again. Maybe it's you're sitting in discomfort. Okay, that's all right. You don't know the answers to everything. You're not supposed to. It's okay. Just allow it to unfold. Don't try to force it. Allow it to unfold. That's surrender. That's being open. That's, being in a receptive state so you can really practice aligning with the flow over and over. The more you do that, the more flow, the more spirit can move through you. And that's when your ego really takes a back seat for good. Kick it out the door. Your inner self becomes free,
Yeah.
and that's the kind of freedom that most of us are yearning for. So there you go. That's my whole
I'm
journey of
for it.
surrender.
I'm
So
for
excited.
it.
I know I actually had a practice of surrender that I wanted to give you. We can't really do it because you can't if you're on the cast you can't see us, but one of the things that Chris teaches is for surrender savasana, which means literally lying down on your back, palms facing up, and you're just in a gesture of receptivity, and you're just imagining that your vessel, your body is full of divine love. You completely surrender your thoughts and your ego, and you just really tune into this deep connection with the universe. Let it just come into your body. I'm sure you're going to practice, find a Savasana practice on YouTube or go to our website, Yoga Center, and find a Savasana practice. But that's a great one for this time of the year and for just practicing surrender. If it's new for you, that's a good place to start. Okay, everyone. Hope that helps. Hope you have an amazing autumn. We'll talk again before the month is out, but that's how I'm feeling now.
Yeah. Well, I'm all for it. I'm ready.
She's all wetty. All
Yeah.
right. Thanks for coming. We'll see you next
Thank
week.
you.